Welcome to another episode of Monday Tsene with Pretoria Psychologists. My name is Meridian, and today I'll be speaking to you about silencing of domestic violence and gender-based violence. It is Women's Month in August in our country, South Africa, and I just want to take a moment to salute Izimbogoto, the heroes and the pillars of our country. We thank you and we salute you for all the beautiful work that you do. Happy Women's Month. So the reason why we are commemorating Women's Month in August, it is because of the brave actions of more than 20,000 women who marched against the oppressive past laws in 1956. But what is interesting is that more than 65 years later, women are not safe in South Africa. Women are considered to be more in danger than they have ever been. And they are suffering in the hands of those who love them, in their own communities, in their own homes, and most even in their workplace. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 3 women is a victim of domestic violence. And in the beginning of lockdown in South Africa, more than 2,300 cases were reported of domestic violence in the first week alone, and an increase of 54% of domestic violence cases were reported over the course of the lockdown. However, in the light of this, we still find that in South Africa, a culture of silencing domestic violence and gender-based violence is still quite prevalent. And this involves when we, as the society, look away when we witness cases of domestic violence or gender-based violence and choose not to be a part of the solution. We choose to ignore what is happening and not report it or even try to assist. And another thing we do as a society, or something that also maintains this culture of silencing, is when we blame the victims and when we ask the victim questions that are blaming the victim for the actions or the abuse and the violence that they have suffered, asking them, where were you? Why were you there? Why were you wearing that? And these are things that perpetuate the silence of domestic violence. So there are a number of things and factors that influence the silence of victims of gender-based violence. A lot of women tend to keep quiet and not speak up when they experience all this violence and abuse. And one of them, or some of them, include that they fear the retaliation from perpetrators and their abusers. They also fear that they will be ostracized from society, viewed as the ones that are to blame in this case. And I cannot even begin to speak on the fear of secondary victimization by our own families, by our own society, and also our very own justice system. And the biggest one for me is the fear that they will not be believed. We will look at them as if they're liars and try to find reasons why they would say this without considering the fact that it could be a fact and it could be true. And there's also multiple other things that are at play that maintain this silence for victims of gender-based violence and domestic violence, and some of which are personal factors. This includes self-blame, taking on the responsibility to say, perhaps I was at wrong or I was at fault. I did something to bring this upon myself, therefore I should take the shame and take the guilt. And there's also the factors that if the violence was perpetrated by an individual who is a close family member, we take into consideration how this is going to impact the family, how this is going to impact the children. We know of cases where individuals have stayed in a relationship that is abusive for the purpose of the children or protecting the image of the family. And there's also other external factors such as societal norms. What is expected of a woman to say about the intimate details of their relationship? Can we discuss these factors in public, or they should be kept in the secret walls of their family or in their society? And we also see that a lot of women tend to keep quiet about this because of the religious values that perhaps they hold in the family or as individuals. Maybe now I have to forgive this person, you have to forgive the person, you have to move forward, you have to let it go. And this is portrayed as a way of the women finding healing and peace. But however, if we really look into these things, they do maintain and reinforce the silencing of gender-based violence. And if we go further to take a look at the psychological impact and the negative impact that this has on a number of victims of gender-based violence and domestic violence, we find that a lot of the women tend to have a lot of fear and anxiety. They no longer feel safe in their homes. They no longer feel safe in their communities. They don't even feel safe in the hands of the justice system. They do not want to report cases or speak about it because they feel that nothing really will happen. Therefore, they're not safe. And there's also other factors that come in, or negative implications, such as depressive symptoms that come up, and a low self-esteem and low confidence. They no longer have confidence in themselves as individuals, because if I have suffered this, then it's probably my fault. Or there's a lot of confusion about, should I stay in this relationship or should I leave the relationship? And obviously it's not always a matter of whether they're dependent on the perpetrator or not, but because of a variety of factors that could be at play at that significant time. So these are some and parts of the negative implications of gender-based violence. So what do we do as a nation and as a society to end the silence against gender-based violence? There are multiple resources that are available over the internet, but I believe it's our responsibility as individuals to educate ourselves about domestic violence, about gender-based violence, and how we can take a part in ending the silence against gender-based violence. And it also involves us taking a stand against it. When I witness gender-based violence or domestic violence, be it as my neighbor or a stranger, do something about it. Make a phone call, even if it's anonymous, to the police and get some assistance. Because if we choose to turn a blind eye, it's a life that could be lost. It's a life that is being destroyed. Another stand that we can take in ending the silence against gender-based violence is for us to take a moment and listen to the women who come up and speak about these incidences of violence. And also not listen to judge them or ask them questions, but listen to support them and to hear, how is it that I can be supportive? Would you like to report a case? Do you need assistance with that? Is there a place that we can take you that you can get the support that you need? And lastly, we ought to respect the right of a woman in South Africa to live in safety, respected and supported. I hope this segment has been helpful to you, and that we will work together to end the silence against gender-based violence. We have attached a number of resource links in the description box. I hope that you will find them useful. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.